I'm Jake Newshound, and this is Newshound's Location Report. Behind me is the small market town of Nazareth, which saw some amazing scenes this week when Jesus of Nazareth paid a visit to his old hometown. Jesus is currently making a big name for himself in the Galilee region. When he preaches, thousands turn up to hear him. When he does miracles, the blind see, the deaf hear, and sick people leave their hospital beds. So, when it was rumoured that Jesus was coming back to Nazareth, hundreds turned out to see him. The crowd was so big, they caused the largest traffic jam Nazareth High Street has ever known. Local wine merchant Phil Bottle was on the streets when Jesus arrived. I asked him what happened next. Well, of course, Jesus is a local lad and we're all very proud of him. I know his mother and brothers very well. Very nice family. We give him a grand welcome. All his old neighbours were there. Crowds were cheering, people lying in the streets. And of course, we were all hoping to see some of these miracles he's been doing. You know, healing the sick, calming the storms, making enormous amounts of food from just a few old rolls. And I wanted to have a chat with him about turning some of my tap water into wine. So what happened? Nothing. For 3 whole days, not a sausage. Nor a glass of wine, neither. Not a single miracle. Oh, he did heal a few sick people, but no big spectacular miracles, know what I mean? I found it all a bit disappointing, to be honest. Anyway, then it was the Sabbath. So, of course, I shut up shop and went off to synagogue, you know, to worship God. Jesus was asked to do the reading from the scriptures, and he read about God's message being good news for people who were poor or in prison or blind. Then he shuts the book and looked round at everyone. You could have heard a pin drop. Then he says very quiet like, "This reading has come true today." Great, we all thought. Now we're going to see some miracles. I started thinking about all that water I had waiting at home. I'd already put it into wine bottles, specially, you see. But then Jesus stood up again and he really gave it to us. He said, "You're expecting me to do miracles here, but I can't do miracles here because you don't have any faith." Well, that were a bit of a slap in the face. But then it went one worse. He said, because you don't have any faith, God's going to bless other people instead of you. And he's even going to bless people who aren't Jewish. How did people react to that? How did they react? They went nuts. Who does he think he is, they said. He grew up here, and now he's telling us we're not good enough. What a nerve. People started booing and hissing. Then, suddenly, a few people ran forward and pulled Jesus off his seat. They shoved him out through the door, and a whole crowd dragged him off to throw him over the cliff. Never seen anything like it. And in the synagogue too. They took him right to the edge of the cliff. But when they came to actually push him over, they couldn't do it. Jesus just looked at him. Oh, you should have seen the way he looked. And somehow, they just couldn't do it. It was as if they'd lost all their strength. All the shouting stopped and the crowd went real quiet. And Jesus simply walked through them all, went back down the hill into town, packed his bags, and was gone before you knew where you were. They say he headed off for Capernaum. You caught us just as we've arrived in Capernaum, a small fishing town on the Sea of Galilee. Jesus got here a few days ago, and remarkably for a religious leader, he's not staying with a local VIP or a leader of the synagogue. No, he's staying in a fisherman's house. The one behind me, in fact. It belongs to someone called Simon Peter. But the big question we're all dying to ask is this. Has Jesus done any more miracles? He hardly did any in Nazareth, so has his power run out or what? I asked Simon Peter's wife.
Has he done any miracles? He's hardly stopped doing miracles since he got here. Every evening there's a queue of sick people and he just heals them. I don't know how he does it. The day before yesterday, my mum was a bit under the weather. Then it got worse. She had to go to bed and had a terrible fever. Simon said he'd go and ask Jesus to come and see her. And she told him, "Don't be silly. Jesus is much too busy seeing other people." But he went anyway. And in a few minutes, Jesus was here. He came into the room, bent over her, and put his hand on her head. She told me afterwards that his hand felt lovely and cool. And he prayed, and the fever just left her. In 2 minutes, she felt so much better that she jumped straight out of bed and cooked us all a meal. Of course, we're a fishing family, so you can guess what was on the menu. Simon made a joke out of it. "What would you like, Jesus?" he said. "Fish, fish, or fish?" Jesus just roared with laughter at that. But he'd really enjoyed the food, and he said he'd like to stay with us again. We've become a sort of second family for him.
So what are we to make of Jesus? With me is our religious affairs correspondent, Anne Opinion. Anne, what do you think?
Well, Jake, Jesus is a real live wire, that's for sure. Some people love him. You can just see from all these people queuing up, waiting to be healed and just to hear him speak. Others can't stand him. Like the people of Nazareth, for instance. They tried to kill him. It really seems you either love Jesus or hate him.
But what about all these miracles? I mean, what are they all about?
Jesus does his miracles because he really loves people. He seems to really enjoy helping them to see or walk or hear. But it's not what he does. It's who he is that makes him so special.
Yes, but where does he get his power from?
His followers say it comes from God, and I, for one, wouldn't want to argue with that. Jesus wants everybody to know what he calls the good news about God, how much God loves them and wants them to become his friends. And Jesus wants to help them do just that. He really is an amazing person.
And thank you. From an excited Capernaum, this is Jake Newshound, handing you back to the studio.